So for women, when it comes to the gym, they're afraid because they don't know if they're doing it right, if they're doing it properly. And an extension of that is they don't know if they're doing it right for them, because a lot of them are following, just programs or social media things. And so there's always a constant question in their mind around, am I doing it right for me? So that would be one. The second one is fear of injury. And it kind of ties into the first one. So I'm afraid that I'm going to injure myself. Then the third big one is I'm afraid of what other people will think. So I'm afraid of being judged. And so these three things impact a woman's training experience.
Welcome to The Body Never Lies. I'm your host, Leila Lutz. Each week, myself and experts from around the world help you uncover the secret ways your body communicates with you to empower you in your own individual health journey.
Welcome to this week's episode. I'm so excited to dive into an insightful conversation with my good friend Amy Bowe. Amy is an expert in training and coaching women, and her skill is honing in on beautiful movement. When you watch her clients train online, you can't help to just be astounded of the quality of their lifts. And she's here today to share her wisdom on overcoming the common fears and barriers that many women face when it comes to strength training and fitness. Now, I want you to get out your pens or be prepared to rewind, because after her tips, you're going to go into the gym feeling so much more confident. Oh my God, I had to, you guys, get my friend Amy Bowe on the show, because I was at the gym the other day and I was thinking about, I walk around the gym and I look at other people when they train, and I don't look at other people when they train like people think they are looking at them when they train. But I always wonder, right? Because I have a lot of confidence in the gym because I'm a strength and conditioning coach, right? I've got 20 years of coaching experience, right? And there's a part of me that hates being in the gym because I'm like, I'm fat and I'm often the only woman in the lifting section and all this sort of stuff. And I think, I bet people just think, oh, she's fat. Why doesn't she just go do some cardio, And then it got me thinking, what are other people thinking at the gym, right? Who haven't been before, who don't have 20 years of coaching experience. And I also thought all about the clients that come to me and say, I have to lose weight before I go to the gym. Or I just stay over in the little girl section because it looks a bit full on over in the weights section. And I thought the only thing that keeps me going, the thing that keeps me focused in my session is all the coaching that I'm doing for myself, right? And I'm so focused on the movement that I'm not really thinking about anyone else. I'm like, I need to help people with this. I know exactly who is the perfect person to help everybody with this. So you guys know Amy because she's been on the show before and I know you love her. So Amy has this way of talking about training that makes it so beautiful. Like, you've got your workshop coming up. By the time this podcast is out, the workshop will be done, but the elegant edge, like everything about what you're teaching women and lifting is about this beauty of movement, no matter what your size, no matter what your training age. So Amy, help me out here. Help me with the listeners today. What are people afraid of when they're training, and how are we going to help them overcome it so they can just get in that gym and put on some muscle?
Thanks for having me back on. I'm excited to see your face. And look at your delicious outfit. I love that top. And I put on your favorite top for me.
I can tell.
Yeah.
We get dressed up for each other.
Yeah, we did. I was just getting ready and Carson walked in before he went to work. And I'm like, I'm wearing Leila's favorite top on for her before I get onto the podcast. Yeah. So we're sitting here and we're dressed up for each other. I give you full credit because it's 6 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, it's a tough thing to get dressed up at like 6 a.m. in the morning and bring the energy. It's kind of like
Attitude.
at like 5:30, or those people, the women that have to train at 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning, that's tough.
I can't train that
Won't
early.
get up.
I can't train that early. I can have a smoothie and talk to you, but I need to eat a full breakfast before I train. I can't train that early.
Yeah, neither can I. I'm 2 coffees deep, 2 meals deep, and a training session deep, Leila. So I'm ready to talk to you.
I just woke up.
But she's like, give me 5 minutes. And I was like, yeah.
My beautiful girl woke up and she was just like, Mommy, I miss you. Because we always have cuddles in the morning. So she might come in. I said if she got dressed, she could come and sit in. She's my biggest podcast fan, guys. Every week when the episode launches, she likes to listen to it while we're having breakfast. It's really cute. It's just like, it's Wednesday. It's podcast day. Let's listen to Mum's podcast. And then when I grow up, I'm going to have a podcast. And this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Hank's my biggest fan, but he's outside right now in the sun. Yeah. But he also might come in. Yeah.
He also might come in. Yeah. But he probably doesn't talk as much. Yeah.
He doesn't talk as much. He's pretty loud, but he'll be, as you know, yeah, you have a stack. Yeah, he's my biggest fan. Let's talk about your question, your topic.
Yeah. So you said to me the other day, there are like, what did you say, 3 or 4 major things that you think women are afraid of? Or that they think, the negative beliefs.
I think there's 3 main ones that when we think of fear and being afraid, I think that comes from just the unknown. We're afraid of the unknown, of not knowing. So for women, when it comes to the gym, they're afraid because they don't know if they're doing it right, if they're doing it properly. And an extension of that is they don't know if they're doing it right for them, because a lot of them are following, just programs or social media things. And so there's always a constant question in their mind around, am I doing it right for me? So that would be one. The second one is fear of injury. And it kind of ties into the first one. So I'm afraid that I'm going to injure myself. Then the third big one is I'm afraid of what other people will think. So I'm afraid of being judged. And so these 3 things impact a woman's training experience. And when you messaged me a couple of weeks ago and you shared just what you shared at the start of our conversation about you even have these thoughts and you've been in the industry for 20 plus years, and you've probably been in a gym for 20 plus years as well. And your mind has this thought around, well, what are people thinking? Are people judging me? And for you, it was a lot around your physical appearance. And so that's also what comes up for a lot of women is, what are people thinking of me? Because of the way that I look and my story about my body and the way I feel in my body. And then also when I go to do something, so many women are just afraid of doing it wrong. We're afraid of, I was on a coaching call yesterday, and a lot of the women that I work with are, they like to label themselves as perfectionists. And that's a label, but there's something underneath the label. And so I was talking about, well, what's underneath that? If you say, well, I'm a perfectionist, so I like to do things right, so then I won't do it. But there's something underneath. And often it will be one of those 3 fears. It will be fear. We're afraid that we're going to do it wrong, so we're not doing it right. We're afraid that we're probably going to injure ourselves, cause damage. And we're afraid mostly of what other people think. And I think that third one probably should be the first fear. We're doing the Warrior Queen Olympics right now. And so I've been doing a bunch of research and reading on mindset, because the warriors, I wanted them to train, eat, recover, and think like an athlete, to try and get into this kind of athlete's mindset. And so I've been doing a bunch of research on mindset, and I came across a guy who was one of the head psychologists for Red Bull for their high performance program. And he has written a book called FOPO. That's kind of the acronym. And it's fear of other people's opinions. And what is found in his work over the last like couple of decades is that athletes, their number one fear is they're afraid of what other people are going to think of them. And so then that causes, obviously at that level, when you think about competition in the Olympics, like the weight on their shoulders, so to speak, and they're just so afraid of what other people are going to think about them. And I think that's what women really struggle with is, what are people going to think about me? I'm not sure, like, from your own experience, Leila, when you messaged me, like what comes up for you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, it's a physical appearance issue. That's one. And then tied in with that physical appearance, because I'm getting quite big now. And I was thinking about this the other day, and a lot of my females have this issue. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm looking really big." It's no, you're just putting on muscle, and you have fat on top of the muscle. So yes, you're going to look bigger for a while, but you're not over muscly. If that makes sense, right? So I weigh exactly the same, but I'm starting to look quite chunky, right? And also when I train, I make a lot of noise. Now I tried to train without making the noise, but I just can't. And so I went to the gym with my husband the other day, and it's really funny because when I go with him and he just sees me for who I am because he loves me and all that stuff, we were doing a shoulder press and I really wanted him to help me get to the next weight. So, I taught him how to spot and And when I do that those last two reps, I'm like grinding it out. And at the end, he just cheers me on. He's like, "Yes, go, baby," Well, I'm like, I do that a lot. I do that a lot in my sets because I'm pushing heavy. For me, I like to gamify my training. I was listening to Tyler Woodward talk about this the other day, actually. I'm really enjoying listening to him at the moment. And he was talking about you have to gamify everything. And I'm like, you're right. Like, if you gamify everything, it makes it fun, right? So every session I'm like, I wonder if I can lift more than I did last week. Even if it's just one set, even if I just did one set, just that next weight up, wouldn't that be fun if I could beat myself from last week? So this is how I talk to myself when I'm training. So it's a game. And then before you get into the set, you're like, okay, come on, you're going to be last time. You're going to be last time. So, and that's something I really noticed as well, is if you're going into the set and you're having doubts and you don't bring enough energy to go to the set, right? So before I get into the set, and I like to listen to dirty rap music too, right? It's really non-PC, niggers killing each other, blowing shit up, all this sort of stuff. This is what I like to listen to when I'm training. Am I allowed to say that word on my own podcast? I
feel like because you're a woman of color.
I know, but I'm brown. I'm not black. Anyway, obviously that word is highly inappropriate, and I'm sorry I said it, but there's a lot of that talk in the music that I listen to. And and the beat gets really boom, and so I'll be working up for a set and I'll often time it with the chorus. I'm really terrible. I like get my phone out. So people always probably think I'm on my phone when I'm training, but actually just move it to the chorus and right. And then I go for the set, right? So before the set, I'm chatting to myself. I'm like, okay, come on, we're going to do better than last time. Just going to get 5 or whatever it is. I'm talking to myself because I also, when I was doing strength and conditioning coaching and I was really studying sports psychology, it was looking at when you go into that lift as an athlete, you got to G yourself up. You got to wind up the excitement, the energy, the tension. You got to bring it. If you want to make it, you got to turn it up. Those powerlifters don't walk out there and go, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll just pick this up. And when I'm ready, I'll go." They walk out onto that stage. Before they've even got on the stage, they're like, "I'm going to bring it. I'm going to own this. I'm going to and every single little thing." And obviously I don't do that every single time I train. Sometimes I go to the gym and I'm like, you know what, I'm really tired today. So if I do as good as last week, okay, whatever. And I might put some different music on. But, when I'm and I know it's my strong week, I've just got my period, right? It's my strongest day, right? I'm going to bring it. I bring it. And I get a little bit yeah, I just got my period. I'm a woman. I'm going to bring this.
Okay.
I'm a nut job. But there's always this part of me, like I watch sometimes at the gym because people watch me, right? I can see people looking at me, especially men. And I find men look at me like, one, because, and this is, you'll laugh, and this is obviously not everyone, but one, because sometimes I can lift more than they can. And I don't think I can actually lift more than they can generally. It's just they haven't had the coaching to be able to lift more, right? And this is where it gets funny, right? Because the same when I go with my husband, and when he comes with me, I make him lift so much more than he would lift on his own. Just because you just don't have that, and that's probably something we can talk about as well, that fear of hurting himself. He has a fear of hurting himself. But also, like in leg exercises, women, I'm quite strong with my legs. Like, so it's not uncommon for me to get off the hip thrust. This guy, I was on there with this guy and I was like waiting for him to finish. So like, can I work in with you? Because it was taking so long. And he's like, sure, no problem. I'll just take these weights off for you. And I went, no, that's okay. That was my warm-up set. And then I finished that set and then I added more plates on. He was like, okay, cool. I'm done here, but yeah, thanks and have a nice workout. So there's all these kind of different interactions, right? But I think so I feel self-conscious when I'm with the men for that reason. But then when I'm with the women, I feel a different level of self-conscious. So it depends what time I go to the gym, right? Like if I go to at 9:30, it's when all the mums are there, right? And if I go like in the middle of the day, there's more men. It's like, I don't know, there's like more men working at home or something. I've noticed different times have different kind of energies and different days as well. I feel like when I go, when all the women there, I'm actually more self-conscious than when I go when all the men are there. Which is really interesting, right? Because I think women, so much of it for me is about how I look and how heavy I am, how big I am, and probably I think as well a lot about, well, I've been going for a long time, but I haven't lost any weight for a long time. So I think that. Then I also think I've built so much muscle under this, just so you guys wait.
Like full bodybuilding mode, how they work the body and then they're like strip it all off.
I'm going to do the strip. Wait for my strip. I'm going to come and everyone's going to go, did you take a Zempic?
Or a steroid.
No, steroids or something. Anyway.
Before I would say a Zempic.
Yeah. But I'm always thinking about it. And even, when I say to people, I'm not going to lose weight right now, I'm aiming for muscle building, I still think every day, I wish I could lose weight. And I just really want to be honest about that because I feel like women really struggle with this. And I don't think it's bad to want to look different. I think it's just about doing it in the right way, right? And so I'm focused on doing it in a way that I feel is right for me. So yeah, that's how I approach training. But I had a fear of injury too. We can come back to that because I had surgery a couple of years ago. So we'll come back to that in that section. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a cool place to start is those three main fears. And I'm going to chuck something out around this. You are afraid because you don't, like not you, but I mean women. Women are afraid and have these fears because they actually don't really know what they're doing. A lot of them aren't doing it properly. A lot of them have injured themselves. And the third one, which is the judging. Look, to be honest, I was in the gym the other day and we're just doing some zone 2 cardio, which is like up above and you can look down into the weight room. And this, this was kind of top of mind. I was just writing some notes and having a think about our conversation today. And I've been speaking a little bit about it inside my world. And the first thing that popped up was like, you know what? Most people don't give a fuck, really. They're not really paying attention to you.
No, they don't.
So self-absorbed as humans. Yeah, like just think about all the things we're thinking. It's all about us. Yeah, like me. And everyone's doing that. And so I was just watching everyone and they're either so in their head, absorbed with themselves and what they're doing, or they're on their phones, absorbed in that world. No one's really paying attention, to be honest. The only people that are paying attention are people like me or Leila. I see beauty in movement. And so I have to be honest, I will be in a gym and I see a lot of ugly movement. And I can't help it because I've trained my eye and I've been in the space for so long that most people move really poorly and really ugly. And the whole thing looks ugly and stressed and forced. But it's not your fault. It's not all of the women's fault. It's just like the culture. It's the way that we weren't taught how to train properly. It's a skill, as you know, Leila, that takes like decades to get really good at. And so it's okay that you don't know, yeah, but you have the fear because you don't know. You don't know how to train properly or train for you. You highly likely aren't doing it with the proper technique for you. And you probably have injured yourself, and that's why you're afraid. And then the last bit, I would just say, no one's paying attention, really. Only people like me and Leila are probably paying attention, and yet we're not judging you. Like when I see women in the gym, sometimes I'll look around and I'll be the only woman in the gym for periods of time. And then when I see women, I'm just like, yes, girl. Like
I know, right?
That are like in the weight section, like in the squat racks, like, doing
So
like
good.
weights. It's so good. Other women aren't comparing or like not in a mean way. They might be comparing as in like inspiring, like, wow, she's a badass bitch. Like, look at her butt or look at her shoulders or she looks so strong. That's really cool. But like, we're cheering you on. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm cheering you on for getting in the gym because I know that it's hard and that you have all of these fears. And so just to get yourself there is like, that is something to be celebrated. And then I'm like a cheerleader. I'm cheering you on. And I love connecting with women in the gym and they're like lifting and they're really trying. And yes, they may not be doing it with amazing technique, but they don't know. And so it's like our role to help these women. That's one of my main missions. I want to teach you how to train properly. So, like I think of myself, I was taught how to train properly, like from the ground up, like from being flat on my back in the dark hole, unable to even like move pain-free or lift a 20-kilo barbell. I just like couldn't do it. I was so weak and broken. And then my coach taught me how to build a strong foundation, literally from the ground up. I went from there to like competing in Olympic weightlifting and clean and jerking, over my body weight and snatching over my body weight and, squatting 100 kilos. And I know how to train properly because I've done it for like 14 years. And so when I walk into a gym, I don't have that fear because I know exactly what to do because I was taught that way and I've been training that way for a long time. The fear of injury, I no longer have that because I came from being flat on my back on the floor. I learned how to rehab injuries. I learned how to move through pain, through discomfort. I can like rehab any injury that I get in my body. And so I no longer have a fear of hurting myself. So I can cross that one off. When I walk into a gym, that fear is not there. And then the last one, I'm really good at it. So I don't have the fear of like what other people think because I get to tick off the first two. And that just comes with time and reps and practice of like putting in the work years after years after years. And you speak to anyone who has just been doing it for a long time. And look, we will talk about the body composition stuff because you've been through like a massive journey and that's one piece. I feel like if we're not in a body that we feel like comfortable and confident in, a body that we love, that brings in like another layer to it. But I'm just like not afraid of what other people think of me because I know what I'm doing. It's like I've been in a gym since I was 14. I was coached really well. I've been doing it for so long. And so that fear is just like not there. And And so I just wanted to start with that and say that it's okay to all of the women out there that you have all of these fears. Hi. Good morning. I know she can't hear me. Tell her I say good morning.
Amy says good morning. Shannon's just trying to everyone. You're just going to listen half and talking. Like, Amy's disgusting. Amy's nail was beautiful. Having a real go, Amy, here, everyone. So, yeah, sorry, keep going, Amy. Shanta's just going to sit here quietly.
It's okay. Welcome. I love having you here. Or it's okay that you have those fears. Now we could talk about what we do with them. Like we could talk about where do we go from here? Would that be a cool place to go, Leila?
I think so. I mean, from a beginner's perspective, I mean, one of the cats here, everyone's here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for us, like you said, it's easy because we have a lot of experience. So when you're working with a beginner, it's been such a long time since I've trained people as well in lifting. When you're working with a beginner, where do we start? Because, and this is often like I'll have girls who are, doing their nutrition with me and I'll give them some guidance on their training. But at some point I'll say, you need to go and work with a coach now, because the biggest thing I see with people is they don't push themselves hard enough. So like I'm not putting muscle mass on, I'm not, because you're not lifting heavy enough, you're not pushing yourself hard enough in your sets, you've got to work closer to failure. And that's the biggest thing that I see with women are scared. But then when I'm walking around the gym, I also think, even with my husband, when I trained him the other day, is that, I'm always filming my workouts so I can look back at my lifts and see what's going on. And, I'm sure everyone thinks I'm some influencer filming myself at the gym, but I'm actually literally film every bit. And then I go in my rest period, I'll watch the set and go, what do I need to work on? What technique? Do I need to change? What muscles do I need to release to be able to get a better range of motion? So I think everyone, to be honest, should have lifting coaching at some stage, whether you work with someone one-on-one or you're just seeing what someone once a month to write your programs, or you have that trainer that you can send videos to and they can really point out certain things. And I've had lifting coaching, and even though I'd been a trainer for a very long time, like I remember my first proper powerlifting coaching session, and just from that one session, I think I put like 30 more kilos on the bar. Just from that one session. And, I was training with someone who's a high-level CHEP practitioner, and he trains powerlifters, and it just changed the game for me. And it helped me get over so much fear that I had, and so many negative beliefs that I had around the lift. And also it was someone talking you through the entire lift, every single rep. And that's what I see is really annoying about personal trainers, right? Because they're just in the gym chatting away, not correcting technique, not really giving clients that drive, and talking them through to get them doing better each time, to gamify it for them, come on, let's do this better than the last set. So there's so much missing, I think. But I think we should start maybe with the beginners, because for me, especially, like if you're a newbie, right? If you've never trained before and you're like, Leila, Amy, I need to lose weight. Like, okay, but the beauty of being a newbie is that you can lose weight and put muscle on at the same time. So we kind of don't want to miss that window, right? So I want to get people in the gym, obviously if you've got exercise intolerance and those things, we're working on different things. But if you don't and you respond well to exercise, even though you're overweight or whatever, when you're a new person, you have newbie gains. So we want to get you into the gym straight away, even if you are like, I don't look good in the gym, I don't feel good in the gym. So how do we? Because I notice even with some of your clients, you have some that are really lean and athletic looking. You have some that are big girl. I'm looking at them lifting and they lift really well. Like, how did you get those women who are beginners or are like, no, I need to lose weight first? How do you get those women lifting?
Yeah, so a lot of women that I have worked with, or when I start working with them, have trained in the past and maybe on and off, like stop-start. A lot of women come from this stop-start cycle where they'll start something, they'll like go all in, and then and it works for a little while, but then it just doesn't. And it could be an energy problem. It could be an injury and pain. That comes up a lot. And so a lot have been through this start-stop cycle. So most of the women have some type of training. I believe most women out there have dabbled, in some type of like fitness or training, whether that's just like running or Pilates or,
Body pump.
Yeah, but if we're talking about just in the gym, a lot of women haven't been taught how to train properly in a gym. Again, it's a skill that we should be taught in school, which is one of the reasons why I started Warrior School, which is like to teach women all of the shit that I think should have been taught in school, which is around like training and feeding ourselves and, our mindset stuff. So most of the women, like take Kelsey, for example, when I started working with Kelsey, she could barely tolerate movement at all. She had like massive exercise intolerance. Like 10-minute walks were really hard for her. She could barely do like body weight strength exercises. We literally started her twice a week for like 15 or 20 minutes, just doing like body weight stuff at home. And then she would go for a walk on those non-training days, just for like 10 minutes at a time. Fast forward now, we're like 3.5 years deep in, she can train 4 times a week. She sprints, she squats like nearly 100 kilos, like 90 something kilos. Now that's over a 3.5 year period. And for her, it was a lot around her energy and not nourishing her body, but also not knowing how to train and how to progress that training over time. And so what you just said, Leila, around how you think that everyone should have some type of coaching when it comes to training, I also believe that. Where did we get this idea that we should be able to fully lead ourselves in training? I don't know why we have this idea of, and in like the nutrition space, we were never taught. Yes, and you could self-teach, I guess, to an extent, but why not work with someone that has been in the space for decades that can teach you, basically that can shorten the long way home for you, that can make it more effective, more efficient, more like a sense of like ease and effortlessness that can come from just like knowing that you're doing it right and guiding you through that. So that would be my first piece of like work with someone. And I would recommend like definitely being in a gym and hands-on is like probably number one. Yeah. Like I spent over a decade in a gym actually physically training people. And I think there's a couple of things that can break down in the online space is that one, a lot of people are telling you how to do something, but they have no context around your mobility, your biomechanics. Like if they don't really know you that well, and that's really important when it comes to like lifting and your technique, that we need to understand your body and your biomechanics and your mobility and your flexibility and your strength and your coordination and stability and lever lengths. And like there's so many variables. And so I think a lot of women feel really stuck with it is because they're not doing it right for them. And this is where this like actually having someone coach you through it and teach you would be the first place that I would start. Now, if that just like is not possible for you or it just like doesn't work or you don't want to do that, there is a framework that I would use. And I kind of call it the Own the Movement framework. As you said at the start, a really big part of my work is making sure women train properly and own the movement. I truly believe you need to own the movement. If you want a beautiful body, you've got to make the process beautiful and you've got to own your movement, which means that you need to know how to do it properly and with quality. So there's a framework that I love to use. And maybe if you're going into the gym and you're having trouble like focusing and you're worried about what other people think, or you're worried if you're going to injure yourself, this framework could be helpful. So it starts with the intention. Like, what is your intention? When you're going to the gym or into that training session or even into that movement, do you have an intention? Like, what are you doing here? Are you trying to learn the movement? Are you trying to push the weight on the movement? Are you trying to, like, what's your What's your intention? Is it to just enjoy the session because maybe you didn't sleep well the night before? Is it to push really hard based on, where you are in your cycle? So have an intention that will that helps channel the energy and it gives you a focus. Then after you've set your intention for that training session, you could do it for the movement. So if you're hack squatting right now, Leila. So what is the intention when you hop on that hack squat machine? Is it to increase your weight? Is it to feel it where you want to feel it, like in your quads and your glutes? Is it about your range or your tempo? Like, what's the intention of the movement? After we've set the intention, then we want to focus on the second piece, which is technique. So, and I love to say to women, pick one technical cue that you need to work on for where you are at right now with the movement or the exercise that you're doing. And so it could be, I notice that, I'm not bracing through my core. So the technical cue could be about breathing and bracing. It could be, I notice that I'm not pushing down through my midfoot. Yeah, I'm rocking back way, maybe on my heels, or so I don't have the connection with the foot right. Now, this one's hard if you don't know what you're doing. Like if you're not sure technically, but say you kind of see someone do it on the internet or you're following an app and maybe they give you a technical cue, or you could pick that. And you just have to play around with what's the cue that's going to help you the most to be able to feel the movement and do it in a way that it should feel effortless and easy. I'm not saying it's not hard and we don't push ourselves, but it shouldn't feel strained or stressed or forced. There should be a sense of effortless and ease to that. So the next one would be cue. Pick one technical cue that you can say to yourself. Again, it's bringing the focus into that one cue. So when I was Olympic weightlifting, for a long time in my snatch, it was slow, slow, fast. Slow in the first pull, slow in the second pull to my hip, and then really fast arms. And before I would go into the movement in every snatch, it would be slow, slow, fast. And that just focused. And so after technique, then it would be range. So we want to move through the full range of motion. And sometimes that's just starting with our own body weight. Like if you can't do the movement with your own body weight and go through the full range of motion controlled, you haven't earned the right to add weight. And so this is where machines are really good, because the machine can put you through that full range of motion. Then it takes out the instability piece. We feel a lot safer, so it can kind of chuck out that fear of potentially injuring. So this is where we could do machine work. So we want to go range of motion. So if you're squatting or you're hack squatting, the first goal, if you don't have a knee injury. Now, if you have a knee injury or something, then that would be a whole nother conversation around maybe how we would build the squat up. But say you want to learn how to hack squat or back squat, we want to do that with full range of motion. We want to start learning that right from the start. Now, what do we have to do? Do we start with the bar? Can you do that? Is the hack squat good? What variation, I guess, would be giving you the best range of motion? But that's what you want to focus on. Am I going through the full range of motion here? Another thing that brings focus and attention to what you're doing. Then the next one is flow and fluidity, which just brings this idea of grace and elegance. Yeah. A lot of women, we're rushing. So I see women, we're not paying attention, and not just women, men as well. Yeah. As I said, the whole thing looks a bit ugly because we're just walking up to the weight and just picking it up and starting, and we're doing it really fast. And that pretty much grace and elegance is the opposite. And then so a lot of women, when I start with them, they start with body weight strength stuff, and I slow them way down, which is no, you have to go to under tempo, and we have to do full range of motion. And if that means we have to hold on to something, or we pick a different progression to do, but you need to show me that you own the movement, and then you have earned the right to go faster, add more weight, make it more complex. And just a lot of us aren't owning the movement. And so when you're training and you're thinking about this exercise, how could I make this maybe smoother is a better word for you, or more controlled, or yeah, like maybe more graceful, like really thinking about, oh, like how would maybe a dancer do this? Yeah, very like elegantly, very graceful. And so we want to think about bringing fluidity and flow into our movement. And this framework, basically just what it does, it slows us down and it brings focus and attention to what we're doing. And it can just reduce the fear and the inside noise in our head that we have around, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I going to injure myself? Like, this doesn't feel right. People are looking at me. If you have that framework that you're pretty much like, this is my intention. This is my cue. This is, okay, range of motion. This is like, how can I make it feel more fluid? Do I need to slow down? Okay, so like slow down. And we just get to go through that kind of script in our mind, and it can be really helpful.
Who's exactly what it is. You've just given everyone a formula that they can use. I hope everyone can get out a pen, rewind the last 10 minutes and write it down, because it's so, so, so true. And I think it's important to remember, I have a brush jump up. We left a souvenir. I think about when you were just talking, Amy, about my hack squat, and I was like, oh my God, is everyone on the internet sick of me posting about my hack squat yet? But I'm thinking about myself with that, because I've given myself the hack squat because I can't do something. So I've regressed my squat back so, so far. And this is really funny because people, coming from a Czech background, people get really anti the machines, right? And I think that the machines have a huge place in our training, and especially in injury rehab and all with this fear and, So I started hack squatting because my squat is crap. It's my worst lift.
Because it's really hard.
It's really hard. A squat is really hard. My deadlift is amazing. Like, my deadlift is amazing, and I can lift so heavy. And I've been I don't want to say naughty, but I've been avoiding my squat like the plague for many years. And now my deadlift has gotten so much stronger. Like, it's the gap between the two is hideous, and I've made it worse for myself. So, and I also had a DVT a couple of years ago. I don't know if I told you that. I had a DVT, and I actually felt it when I was training, and I knew I had one. And so I have this fear now. So if for anyone who's ever had one, I mean, I don't know, you probably wouldn't know unless you're an exercise physiologist what it feels like. But I was deadlifting, and I was doing full deadlifts from the floor, and I remember going to the salva to pick the weight up right at the bottom, like I've just accepted the bar into my hands and I was about to push up, and I feel this pressure in my ankle, and I was like, that is so weird. I've never felt that before. And that pressure didn't go away for a few days, and I was like, I have had this varicose vein for a very long time, and I think it's a DVT. So when you do an ass to grass squat, the amount of pressure that's in the bottom of the squat, I haven't been able to go back there since I had that DVT. And even after the surgery, like, the surgeon's like, you can't put stress, like you can't do a Valsalva for like quite a while. And, the 6 weeks after surgery, I was only allowed to walk. I was only allowed to walk like 5,000 steps a day or something. I was like, he's literally like giving me all these parameters. So, and also I was just really lucky because I actually went to 3 different surgeons, because everyone was like, what do you want to lift so heavy for? Like, you really don't need to get this. You could just take blood thinners. I'm like, this is my life. This is what I want to do with it. Until I met this surgeon, his practice manager, she was like, oh yeah, what are you lifting? I'm lifting. So I was like, okay, this is the surgeon for me. She's like, oh yeah, I got him to take mine out so I can keep lifting. Okay. So, there was this thing as well, like everyone in the medical industry is like, why do you want to lift that? It's like, well, who cares? But it's my body, right? I'm not doing anything. It's not dangerous. It's actually quite good for you. So, yeah, there was a whole fear around my DVT and then the surgery afterwards, because for a while afterwards, you did feel like there was a lot of pressure in your leg, right? And so this year I really had to decide to focus on my strength because I was like, I can't. And there's a podcast on that. You guys, it's not out yet, but by the time this is out, you would have listened to that. But getting really specific on my strength goals this year. And so anyway, I'm going to use the hack squat because the hack squat is going to enable to me to get the full depth. Because the other problem that I have is that I'm quite flexible. I'm very hypermobile. So I can get down into a squat. I can't get back up again. With a weight, right? So there's a fear of when I do it by myself in a cage that I won't be able to get back up again. Even if I put the safety bars in and I just was like, I can't get back up again. So for me, the hack squat has totally been about overcoming fear, getting the full range of motion, the depths. But this is where I think it's really important to work with the trainer because the goal setting piece is really important, right? And so within a big goal, there needs to be lots of mini goals. So my first goal with the hack squat was to be able to do the full range of motion on the hack squat. I don't know how many of you hack squat before. A hack squat machine is fucking heavy. It's really heavy. So, I couldn't do the full range of motion for the first few weeks. It's actually taken me 4-5 weeks to get a full range of motion on the machine without any plates. And I'm not kidding. And I'm just like, this is really funny because I first started and I was like, this is embarrassing. I'm going to get on this plate with this machine with no plates on it. And I was going up and down and I'm like, yeah, I have no plates on it. And then what I started doing was watching everybody else when they used the hack squat. And I was like, no, I've never seen actually anybody go to full depth on the hack squat. So I was like, Leila, get over yourself. Nobody's doing it properly anyway. And that's not a judgment against anybody else. It's just that they don't know, okay?
Or at our gym, what they do is they wrap a thick band around the back of the bar and then they attach the band onto the hack squat, right? So one of those big, thick resistance bands.
Yeah.
Then they load it with all of these plates, but they've got the band. And so the band,
yeah.
Don't know those resistance bands. Basically, they take off an amount of weight. Like for a pull-up, they're taking off your body weight. It's the same on the hack squat. So they just wrap this band and then they put all the plates on and you're just like, well, why don't you just do it with less weight and no band? Just like do it properly.
Well, that's really funny because in a proper strength and conditioning focus, you would use the bands to actually make the hardest part of the lift harder. You would wrap them down the bottom around the foot plate. So anyway, that's just a little technical training thing. But I think that's the thing. When I think about it, how have I gone all of this time? And what I've done is I added plates and then I'd work on it to a certain depth. And I was like, oh, actually my sticking point is about 3/4 of the way down. So I'm just going to start doing some pause squats there, right? So pausing in the place that's the hardest, for those of you who don't know, and Amy could probably explain this better, but that forces you, when you pause in that position, to really hone in on your stance in that position because you can't cheat your way. You can't rush your way through that part. So, all right, I'm going to pause at the hardest part. So I spent a few weeks doing that and I actually did put some weight on. And then I would come in the next session, I'm going to go deeper. So I would just go a little bit deeper, a little bit, every session. So I was just playing around with all different heights and all different, and then finally last week, I got full depth, full sets of 10 reps. No cheating, no pushing, no grinding, no, just beautiful, clean. I owned the movement. It's taken me 4 or 5 weeks to people. And then yesterday I go in, I'm like, got to gamify this, right, everybody? So yesterday I put on 10 kilos, a bit too much. All right, 5 kilos. I went 5 kilos. So next week I'll try and add another 5 kilos. But so my goal now is to get to 60 kilos. And then I can start thinking about going back to the bar again. So, I just wanted to bring that up because I think people also think that you're meant to get it in a really quick amount of time. I can't get it. I watch people when they train other people in the gym, and this is where I just want to go over and help them. I actually like when I'm at the gym, I'm like Amy, I'm looking at everybody, I'm like, okay, I just want to go over and help that woman. If I just tell them to change their foot position, or if they just worked on their ankle mobility or something, like they could really nail this, like I just want them to nail it. So people are constantly avoiding the hardest part of the movement, or they're forcing themselves through it, right? I watch them go, I mean, I even watch this as trainers. I watched this trainer who was trying to get this woman to do this clean with just a dowel rod. And he's just kind of just kept coaching her and forcing her to do it. And I'm like, man, you got to release those ankles. Like, she cannot get under that bar because her ankle is jammed up. But that's a different experience. So this is sometimes where you want to really work with the trainer, because I feel myself and I look back and I go, oh, I can see my ankles jammed up. All right, I'm going to go do some mobilities and then I'm going to try again. And I get really excited, right? Because I'm like, okay, I'm going to experiment and I'm going to see if that makes it better, and that made it better, or that didn't make it better, it's something else. That's really exciting for me. It's fun for me. It's like I'm really into the biomechanics of it all. But also sometimes, like, I was messaging with Craig and he was like, oh, I love watching your training videos on your Insta. It's so cool to see you training. And then he just chimed in a little piece of advice for me. And he's like, I really think you need to slow it down and work on your tempo. And I went, okay, Craig is a really awesome trainer. I'm going to try that. And that actually really got me over the line, was slowing it down. So sometimes, even when you have all the experience, just having somebody else put different eyes on it, right? And go, try it this way. Like, it totally changed it for me. And you think, what do you mean? That's just the simplest little thing. But when you're so focused on one thing, someone else sees something else that could just help you. So anyway, that was a long-winded story of my hack spot for everyone who's not sick of seeing my hack spot on the internet. It'll be back there for a few more weeks.
We'd love seeing you hack spot. Okay, there's a couple of things that you said in there that I'd love to pick apart a little bit. So we both do this as a career, as a job. Dad, your big work now obviously is in the kind of the bottom of the foundation, but you've had a career in movement and training for a long time. You get really excited that you see your ankle jammed up. Yeah, and it makes you excited, and you get really excited about the technical side of things. And like, we're a bit obsessed, with the training and the process. Most people don't care. Most women just want to look good. They want to, and not just look good. They want to be in a body that's pain-free, that they can live their life on their own terms, that they trust, that they want energy, but they just don't care. So, like, if you watch what's happening in the social media space with all of like the science-based people, and the biomechanics people, and they're like, just like battling it out with each other over like the minute kind of technical details. And Carson and I were having a conversation the other morning, because like, we're both in the space, and people don't care. The only people that care are coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not Jen Clark. Yeah, for all of you listening, you want to feel good, and you want to look good, and you want to have energy. And so basically, I can just hear you being like, well, what do I don't care, about like the ankle being jammed up or like the technical side. I just want to train or know what to do to feel good and look good. And so I hear you on that. And
I want to get out of there and get to work on whatever.
Yeah, but like, I've got like my whole world, my whole life, which I'm like struggling with, because I've got kids and I'm low on energy, and I've got the financial side and like work and a career and a business, and you know what it's like, Leila. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of pieces to it. And so then what's happening is that we're making training more complicated. Not all of us, but like there's just so much to it. And I'm not saying that it's super simple. There's many layers to it that take you years and decades to learn. Really how to like own the movement and train properly. But for a lot of us, for a lot of you just like want to know what to do to feel good and look good. Okay, so in saying that, I do believe that learning how to feed yourself properly, which, as you would know from Leila's work, requires you to pay attention, slow down, write in a diary, track. Like, you have to actually slow everything down and learn about yourself and your habits and your behaviors and what you're doing, and like how does that food feel, and like, are you eating enough, and how do we balance? And there's so many layers to that. But if you want energy, you have to learn how to feed yourself. And we can't teach you that in a week. It's going to take months, sometimes years, for some people to learn how to feed themselves properly. It's the same with training. You want to look good? Well, one, you've got to be in the game for a long period of time. Everyone that you're looking up to that has a certain body that you admire, if you go into their story, I guarantee you they've probably been training for a decade. Yeah, or more. And I guarantee you that they probably train really well and move beautifully, and they're very strong. And so if you want a beautiful body and a body that looks good, you have to learn how to train properly. I do believe you have to actually fall in love with the process and get excited by training and interested about training and wanting to learn how to make that movement better and understanding what you're doing. If we don't understand what we're doing, how can we get the results that we want? And this is where the breakdown is like, we don't want to do the process. Yeah, we don't want to pay attention to the process. I talk about it as in like a pyramid, your relationship with your body and building a body that you love. We've got the foundation piece, which is like your health. Yeah, all of the stuff that you do, Leila, which is like your nervous system, your biofeedback, the nourishment, the safety, the eating enough, the walking, the sunlight, the sleeping. If you don't have that, there's no way that you're going to have energy and build a body that you love. And then from there, there's the second layer, which is what we're talking about today, which is performance, which is training of like, how does your body function? What can it do? Now, if you are in pain and you have an injury and you have really poor mobility, or you're super, super hypermobile, and so like you have no stability and you're trying to just like do stuff with your own body and you're not utilizing things like machines or slowing it down, like the body's not functioning properly. It's not performing. And then therefore we can't train consistently and build muscle and get stronger, which feeds into the last bit, like the top layer of the pyramid, which is aesthetics. But all the women go straight to the top, straight to the topping on top of the cake. And we just like want the decoration. It's kind of like the building analogy. A lot of you are in the when they blast out a building in a city to build the underground car park, a lot of women that work with you, Leila, are in the bottom of that black hole. They're like, we haven't even gotten to the surface level yet. And so we're in the hole. We've got to dig our way out of the hole, which is like all of the bottom of the foundation of like, are you just eating enough food? Are you trying to get as much sleep as you can? Even if you have like little humans, are you getting sunshine? Are you walking? Okay, well, now we're at ground level. And now we get to build the building with the training and with the other like different food strategies, building muscle. Okay, now we've got the building, and now we get to go inside and we get to decorate the building. But we just don't want to go in and just decorate the building because that's fun and it's pretty and it feels like it's easy. But no one wants to like dig themselves out of the ground and then build the building. And I think that, I don't know if that resonates or that, that.
Well, 100%. I mean, and I think this is the thing why I was like, I have to be so open about my journey this year. It's like, I'm not going to train for weight loss because it's the topping on the cake. It's not, if I took a list and I wrote down all the things that I know I need to do and the things that I want to do, and the list that I need to do was about 10 times longer than the want to do. And that's a hard, place to be in, right? And maybe that's why this happened to me, so I could truly understand for a client what it's like to, go, I want to look like this way, or I used to look this way. Until I was 35, I looked like this, and now I don't look that anymore. And I just want to be that person again, right? And the truth is like up to 35, you can just decorate. And then at 35, the building comes crashing down. And it doesn't because age is this thing that happens. It's because in your 20s and 30s, you can get away with doing no foundations. And that's what we do. In our 20s and 30s, I'm not doing any foundational work. I don't have time. I'm going out, I'm partying, I'm working, I'm doing this sort of stuff. Oh, I put weight on, doesn't matter. I'll just not eat for a week and I'll lose that weight. Don't worry. And we live our life in this way. And then all of a sudden we get to 35 and we've run out of resources. We've run out of all of the backup stress buckets, pathways that we had available to us for our lifetime. And, and this is why it happens when you're 35. It'll be totally different if you grew up I hope it'll be so different for my daughter because she already eats 2,000 calories a day and she really looks up to Amy and Kitty and Libby and like their muscles and, she's not growing up like I grew up thinking, it's the 90s and everyone should be able to see all their bones poking out. So, the foundation is super important. And if you've missed out of it from your childhood for whatever reason, and, it's about making peace with that and then rebuilding. And so even for me, the training part, even though I have all this training experience and this knowledge, it's like if I don't break down this movement and work on what's hard for me, I'm never going to achieve what I want to achieve. If I don't, the body comes with being strong. So if I keep skipping my squat and I can't ask to grass squat 60 kilos, I don't deserve to have that. Like, it's just giving me, it's like that movie Death Becomes Her with those two women. They're like live forever, but they're like spray painting each other and, putting each other's faces back on. It's, it's wanting the pretty cake bit on top without working on the inside. And, I want to be snowboarding with my daughter. Like, I was 37 when I had her, so I'm going to be late 50s. Like when she's 20, I'm going to be 57. I want to snowboard with her when I'm 65. So it's about doing the work. Anyway, we've gone off track again, but I think this is where it's really important to work with a coach, because a part of coaching someone is working with your goals. Like, what's your big vision for yourself, your life? And when you're so busy thinking about all that stuff, you're not thinking about being skinny and pretty, because you don't have to, because all that stuff is a byproduct of all the other stuff. And I think what we often forget is that the gym is a man-made up space to make up for a lifestyle that we no longer live. And people are like, I hate training. Okay, well, my only answer is for you is to go and live in the bush and be a cave woman, because that's what you were designed to do. You were designed to go and hunt and forage for food all day and then spend the rest of your time making the food. And then you would go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. So you're going to have to find a way to move your body in a way that replicates that so that you can stay functional.
Bunch.
But seriously, we've gone for so far removed. That's what our life used to be. Hunting for food, making food, going to sleep, get up, do it again.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the question we can ask is, or what we can propose is that maybe you don't love it. Yeah, maybe you don't love going to the gym. Maybe you don't love lifting weights. And I would just push back on that and say, well, you don't love it because it's probably hard and you don't know what you're doing because you have all of these fears that we started with our conversation. And so when you learn how to train properly and you have energy, it just becomes way less hard. When you think of hard, there's a couple of things that happen. It's hard, so we give up. We just stop, which is what a lot of us have done in the past, or a lot of women do when it comes to their health and their fitness and their training, is that they do the start-stop cycle. They just stop because it's hard. And then they don't have the mindset or the skills or the knowledge to adapt and modify it to be able to keep moving forward. And so if it's hard, we give up. The second option is, okay, it's hard, but you have to learn the skills and the knowledge in order to make it feel less hard. And then it's going to be less hard and feel easy. So therefore, we start making progress. So then we start getting motivated. And it's like we have this idea that we should love it and be motivated at the start. But that's backwards. It's kind of like we got it wrong with the culture as well, like you were saying, Leila. I believe we should spend our teenage years and our 20s learning how to build a strong foundation, learning how to train properly, learning how to feed ourselves, learning how to manage our minds. And that our 20s should be about that, yeah? And also having fun, because our resiliency and our tolerance is way higher. And then once we get into our 30s, we can then start to get the careers and build the businesses and have the families. But we kind of got it backwards as a culture. A lot of women just started to get married and have kids really young, and like they went through the dieting cycle and didn't have a strong foundation. Then you're like 3-4 kids deep and you're in your 40s or you're 35, late 30s and 40s, and there's just no foundation. And it's just like so stressful and we're depleted because we were never taught that way. And I think it's the same with the training stuff. We have this idea that we're just meant to love it and we're meant to feel motivated. And if we don't love something, well, then we just don't want to do it. But the love and the motivation is going to come from the progress. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's like to do something that always feels hard and you just feel like you're not making progress or you're like injuring yourself, that's really frustrating. And I don't blame you for not wanting to do it. But the only way that you're going to get motivated and fall in love with it is if it feels easier and you start seeing results. And so if you learn how to train properly and we can reduce those fears and you start seeing progress, like you actually start seeing muscle mass, or you start seeing a body composition change, or you can lift more weight. It's this idea of gamifying it. You know, a big part of my work is the engagement with training. Like I honestly believe if we want to build a long-term, powerful relationship with training, we need both. We need like the program, the discipline, the organization, the structure, this is what I'm doing. But we also need novelty and playfulness and gamifying it. And that side of it really helps motivation and it really helps you fall in love with it. But you can't get there until you do it. You got to get in a field or get in the arena and you got to play the game and you got to play it for a long enough time that it starts to feel easier and you start to see progress and then you get motivation. And then like a lot of women I work with, when they started, they hated training. It was horrible. It was uncomfortable. Had no energy. They couldn't recover. They had an injury. It was painful. And they just had to like literally slog it out for a while. And it's way easier if you can slog it out with someone there that's like cheerleading you on and supporting you. But you literally just have to get through that first part of like learning the movement and showing up and becoming the woman who trains. And then it gets way more fun. It gets really fun because you're like, well, I feel stronger. I'm not in pain. I have more energy. I'm making progress. I'm seeing changes in my body. And that becomes addictive. Like I love training because I love the process now. And I didn't for a long time. You know, if you were to speak to me a decade ago, my attitude sucked. It sucked. It was horrible. I was obsessed with the outcome, the weight on the bar, how well I performed. And if I didn't lift the amount that I needed, I would just it impacted a lot of my relationships really negatively. And I just had such a horrible mindset around training. For me, it was never about like my weight or my composition, because that's always just been a byproduct, but it was the obsession of doing it perfectly or weight on the bar. And over the last several years, I've changed that relationship and now I actually love the process. Like we started sprinting this year and there's been moments where like I can't quite get something. Like the start for me is really hard, the acceleration phase. And just for months and months, I couldn't get it. And some of those stories started to come up, some of that friction and that frustration and that shitty attitude. But then I reminded myself that you're here, you love the process now. It's the process that, like, we've got to make the process beautiful and enjoyable. And we are focusing on the process. We're focusing on the output and on the result. And it's just, if we shift and be like, okay, how can I make my training more enjoyable right now? Yeah. How can I be more engaged with it? How could I make it more effective? If I make the process beautiful as a byproduct, you're going to get the results. You will. Yeah. The question is not if, it's just when. And so I think that's another missing piece, or where we feel friction.
I think as well, in this world, and it sounds cliche because everyone says it all the time, like we've become so used to just getting everything. And I watch it now with parenting, and other parents around me. We're also getting to this point where now we're like, oh, if that's too hard for my child, maybe that's just not for my child. And this really worries me, because one of the biggest things in evolution and learning anything new is making yourself do hard things. And we're getting into this place in our society where it's like, oh, it's hard, then it's not for me for whatever reason. And that really worries me. And I notice as a parent, maybe it's because I've been a coach for such a long time, a really important part of being a parent is being okay with your child being uncomfortable, unhappy, not liking something, and not trying to fix it. And you have to be that way with yourself, I think, as well. You have to go, yeah, this sucks. Like after I had, all the mold illness and all the stuff, I literally couldn't breathe while I was walking up the street. And it's like, how did I go from being, able to perform at an athlete level to not being able to walk up the street? And you can climb into the hole, or you can go, oh yeah, but I actually have all the science in my head to rebuild this body, and I'm just going to take it one step at a time and rebuild it. And, we have lost the ability to face up to what's hard and go, I don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And no matter what you come to in life, you're learning how to cook. I've learned how to make sourdough bread this year, and it sounds really simple, but it's actually quite complicated. And when I did, I just stuffed some of them up. I was just like, well, that's just shit, and had to be thrown out or start over. Or I'm making gluten-free sourdough, by the way, so it's a bit more complicated. But it changes with the weather. I've noticed when the temperature changes in my house, I have to change the water ratio to the flour, and you don't actually learn how to do those things. Now I've got like this intuition about it. I can tell from the consistency of the starter when I'm making it whether it needs more water, I can tell what the temperature is today, the humidity. But it's taken me a whole year to get there, right? And I have had so many people who bought the recipe book and I tried it, it didn't work. Yeah, okay. And they're like, how come you can do it so well? It's like, well, I think I honestly got it right the first time because it was fluke. But I followed the formula. This is something I notice a lot with people. I'll put a recipe just for simple on the internet, and they'll message me and go, what do I do with this bit? Sometimes I'm like, it's in the instructions. Did you not read it? Or can you just work it out for yourself? Because I have like thousands of followers, and if everyone asked me that question, I would never get any work done. I'd just be sitting here answering questions all day. So it's like we're afraid to do hard things. We're afraid to fail. And we're afraid to just do the process, right? And if you don't do the process, like when you learn something new, this is my thing. I'm doing a course at the moment. I'm doing a course learning how to build sales funnels and all this crap for my course, right? And I've paid this woman, and I'm literally doing every single thing that she says in the order that she says to do it in. And sometimes I stop and I go, well, that's not really for me. And I go, yeah, but are you just saying that because you don't want to do it, or if it's not hard? Or I think for me, the thing is, I know if I've paid someone for their expertise, I'm going to do every single thing that they say and see how it fits for me. And I can't make that judgment until I've actually done it. And then when I do it the next time, when I've sold my course and I'm reselling it and I'm, all this sort of stuff, I can turn around and go, do I need to do that bit? Did that bit actually work for me, or do I need to change that? But it's not until you've done it the first time, So I think there's a few pieces here where we're unaccustomed to committing to something. We're unaccustomed to facing up to hard things and adversity, and we're unaccustomed to pushing ourselves through to get to the other side, like learning a skill. You don't turn around and say to your boss, I don't want to do that. That's too hard. He'll go, okay, well, I'll find someone else then. I'll just employ someone else then. But in everywhere else in our life, we're just like, oh, that's too hard. I don't want to do that.
Which, I get it. If you have an energy problem.
Yeah, 100%. I was there.
I get, and most people do. Yeah, we have a global epidemic energy problem, really. Yeah, so if you're low on energy and you don't have a strong foundation, of course there's resistance to doing hard things. Yeah, and when I say energy, I see it in a few different pillars. So we have our physiological energy, which is like the state of your physiology, like your biofeedback. Is your body healthy? Yeah, like do you have energy in your cells? And then we have our mental and emotional energy and that load there. And so sometimes we could be going okay with our physical energy, but the mental and emotional load that a lot of us can carry leaks a lot of energy. And so sometimes you're bringing energy in, but there's just too much going out. So there's like too many outputs. And then other times you're like not even bringing enough energy in. And then you have all of these outputs going out, which is a disaster, as you would know, Leila. But if you have an energy problem, of course it's going to feel hard. And so this is why we harp on all the time about eating enough and sleeping and building your foundation. And that shit takes time. Like, as I said before, learning how to feed yourself takes time. And this is why I don't give out just like generic templated things, or this is even why inside of Warrior School, I don't do a lot of like meal planning, like here's recipes, because I make my women learn how to feed themselves with, principles and strategies, but you've got to put in the work and learn what works for you and what doesn't. Yeah, that I can't tell you exactly what's going to work for you or not. All we can do is try it on. We have to pay attention. The data gives us information. Then the data we can use, and that could be objective data or subjective data. We can use the data to tweak the strategy and the plan. It's the same with the training. You just have to be in it, and you have to be doing, like Leila said, there needs to be a doing element to it for you to be learning about, well, what's working and what's not working here. And then we can adapt and modify based on the information we have about that plan or that strategy or what we're doing. Is it working or is it not working? Okay, well, why is it working? Oh, that's really interesting about the temperature in the home, or that it's like not working because I notice X, Y, and Z. And so we need to be, it's like a lot of women feel like they have a weight problem, but a lot of them have a disconnection problem. Yeah, a lot of them are just disconnected from their body. They don't understand their body. They don't know how to feed their body. They don't know how to move their body. There's no trust there. And so the work in that foundational piece is like helping them create the connection. And how can you create connection without spending time with yourself? It's like, think of a relationship, yeah? You need to spend time with that person, yeah? Lots of time to be like, okay, we're like connected here. And they're like, I understand you. And we have this sense of like, okay, well, I want it now, or just tell me what to do. And it's like, well, we could give you a framework and some guidance, but you're the only person that's really going to know, how, like, you need to learn how to lead yourself. You're going to have to feed yourself for the rest of your life. So why not spend a year getting really good at it? Yeah, like spend a year. Learn. If you want to make sourdough for the rest of your life and be really good at it, spend a year learning how to do it properly. Yeah, you're not going to be great at sourdough after the first try or even the first 3 months. It's the same. If you want to build a body that you love, that's strong and capable and pain-free, and you know how to deal with injuries, and you want to ski with your daughter when you're 65, why don't you spend 2 or 3 years learning how to train properly? And I always have spoken in years. I don't really speak in weeks or months. I speak in years. It takes you, like when I started sprinting, I said, okay, let's just see. We'll see where I am in 2 years. Like literally, I thought I got to commit to this for like 2 years to get like good at it, to get better at it, because it's so damn hard. It's so hard. It's so technical. And it's just like, I don't have the expectation that I'm going to be really good at it or get fast in 6 months or even a year. Because it's really hard. It's the same with like learning a skill like being an amazing baker or making amazing sourdough or being really good at training. Like it takes a long time. And I guess that's a deterrent for a lot of women, especially if they don't have time and have energy. But this is your health. Like this is your life. Like this, we're running out of time here. If you're like in your late 30s or your 40s, you're literally running out of time. We're going to die. Like I remind my warriors of that all of the time. We are going to die. What is more important than making sure you have a strong foundation and you have a healthy body and you can function and you're not in chronic pain and you have kids. It's like you need to lead your kids powerfully in this. Like this is your responsibility, I believe, as a parent, to be like, are you teaching your children how to have a powerful relationship with food? If you don't, what are you teaching your children? Yeah,
100%.
are you teaching about movement? And like, if you don't, well, then how are you going to be a powerful leader for your children? So like if you had children, that's your responsibility to be a good leader, which means you need to learn how to lead self first. Or at least be in the work at the same time, of like the leadership. And so, yeah.
I mean, I 100% agree. And I think that's the point as well, is I think it's always about being in the relationship with yourself. That's what it is for me. And, when you train, it's like, okay, well, how do I train? What do I respond best to? What excites me about training? What, it's getting to know myself and all of the answers to those questions. And even with the food piece, it's like, well, I've been increasing my carbohydrates strategically like every 2 weeks. And when you food log and you actually intentionally feed yourself and then you go and train and you see your training just exponentially improve because you have so much energy, because you have such good food, you're like, wow, you see and you can connect with that result. Like if we're just going through the motions every day, and you don't always have to be achieving a goal. Like I really love watching what Libby's doing at the moment. She's just like, not logging, not like just enjoying. And that's part of the process as well, right? But a lot of people want to get to that part without doing all the work to get to that part. So she has a really clear understanding of how much food she needs to eat, so she will automatically just make that food for herself every day. She doesn't have to go, oh, Libby, you didn't eat the food. Like it's just an automatic point. Everybody wants to get to that point, right? When they're not logging, they're not having all these training goals. They just go to the gym for fun and all that stuff. But it's taken her like 10 years to get to that point.
What can I say?
Yeah. And I had to go back to the beginning again and start over from the beginning again. And it's about falling in love with the process and the opportunity to have a new relationship with myself. Because, most of us, like I said before, in our 20s and 30s, were just saying we had a good relationship with ourselves, but we weren't actually making time for that relationship. And then, yeah, in your 40s and 50s, you're like, I can't ignore myself anymore. I have to work on this relationship. And that's what I'm doing. And I think that, for the women that say, oh, but I have so much more stuff now, like I had all this time to myself before. I can tell you took that time for granted. You did. I know you did. And the thing about like even having a family now, even with my business, what it's helped me do is become so finite with my time and have so many more boundaries on my time. So I have to build this sales funnel, which is my job this week. I have to do it in the time, not stay up all night and do it, not work past the clock. It's like I've got to be at pickup for 3 o'clock. So you have between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock to build this freaking thing. Now do it. Whereas before, when I was single, it's just, it's a cack. I got all night, I got all week, I'll get up early, I won't sleep, like all of this stuff. So it's actually more of an opportunity. I see your 40s, the urgency, the constraints, and they're actually a gift. It's like, I really want that body. Okay, I'm not perimenopausal yet, but it's coming. So I want to have the strongest body I can to go into perimenopause and be asymptomatic, okay? I got probably 2 years before I hit perimenopause, although it would be perfectly normal for me to hit it now. It's a constraint. Like we need constraint because now I'm like, well, I need muscle, man. And I made myself a goal. I'm going to get to 54 kilos of lean mass. And that's quite high. That could be 54 kilos of fat-free mass, which is about 52 kilos of lean mass. That could be way too high for somebody else. That's my goal. That doesn't have to be your goal. But I'm just like, no, that's my goal. And that's going to contribute to everything. And I'm going to do it no matter how hard it is. And sometimes that means going, well, I'm fat and I don't like it. But I said I was going to shoot 52 kilos. Don't diet again, you crazy woman. It's actually just like, this is the process. So when I go to the gym and I look at the mirror and I'm like, in fact, I choose to focus on something else. Like I'm really in love with my shoulders at the moment. And so I'm just right, well, in between the sets, when I'm walking around in the mirror, I'm just going to look at the shoulders and I'm going to go, like I always put muscle on my shoulders pretty easily and quickly. Okay, it's a cheap win, but, it really appeals to my ego. I'm just going to look at that in the mirror in between the sets instead of all the other stuff and remember what it took to make those shoulders. Well, I actually had to rehab them. I spent weeks doing rehab work on them after I had all my TMJ work done. Like it's taken me for ages and look at what has happened because of that work. Okay, so go back and get on the freaking hack squat and do another set. Like you have to have these conversations with yourself that you would have, if you were a coach or your employee at work or, your child that doesn't want to do their homework or, wants to give up all of a sudden on their ballet lessons or whatever it is. You have to step in and be that person for yourself and go, well, no, this is what I said I was going to do. That's my goal. I don't like this bit right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because the time constraint is there. The deadline is there.
And sometimes when it's like self-imposed, like that's coming from our vision, we just relax on it or we let other things get in the road. Like as women, as mothers, like, and you can speak to this, Leila, and I think we're going to do a podcast about it of like we go down the priority list and because we are focused on everyone and everything else. Whereas if you think about, in your work, there is an external deadline or constraint put on you by like your boss or your employer or whatever. There's that sense of urgency and we will just get it done because it's for someone else. But a lot of women have a really hard time, like they're clear on their vision. And I used to believe that women didn't know what they wanted because I was like, well, why are you like seduced by the short way and stopping and starting? And like, do you even know what you want? But I think we've always been pretty clear on what we want. And that can change from season to season for sure, I believe. But the hard part has been the prioritizing ourselves. Like I work with a woman, she's also a coach in Victoria, and she works mostly with mums, and her kind of whole philosophy is nourish the mama. Like the mama is like, she like the mama bear, yeah, that like runs the show, yeah, the house, like leads the children, runs the family, not all of the time, don't get me wrong, in like different family dynamics, but just for sake of our conversation today, and we work with a lot of women that are mums. Yeah. Like I work with women that have 5 kids and 4 kids and 3 kids, and women that have massive jobs, lawyers and own businesses. And so we can't use the excuse of I don't have time. Yeah. We're just like, you all have the same amount of time. A lot of women have trouble prioritizing themselves. They go down on the list. And so it's a learning, and it's a hard learning. You know, I've worked with some women that have been mums since they were like 23, yeah, and stay-at-home mums since that age. And so, and then they had like 3 kids, and now their kids are like older, and they're still doing everything for their kids because it's just like it's in their identity. It's like how their culture and how they were raised, and like just have such a hard time prioritizing themselves. Anyway, this woman that I work with who's a coach, her philosophy is like nourish the mama. The mama needs to be nourished. And I just don't mean in food. I mean in like, you were talking about like going out with your girlfriends, yeah, Leila, and having that connection and like training and like going for your walks and like all the things that nourish you. So many women don't get the opportunity to like experience that nourishment. And then what's happening is that it's impacting the relationship that they have with themselves, their self relationship, because they have no energy and they hate their body. And it's impacting their relationship that they have with everyone else. It impacts the whole family. And I honestly believe that your relationship with your body shapes your entire life. And you're going to have many relationships with your body in this life. And so now in the season that you're in, I want you to think about, what type of relationship do you want with your body right now? What is your vision? What is your goal? And you're going to have to pop you up there. Yes, you're going to have to prioritize it. Now, that might not be the one alone, but it's got to sit alongside. Yeah, like maybe your new career, or building that course of your business, or raising your children. Like it's either got to sit alongside or slightly above, because if you're not nourished and you don't have a powerful relationship with yourself and your body, and you don't have energy, it just trickles down and it affects everything in your life. And what would happen if we got really good at like nourishing ourselves and giving ourselves energy and training properly and feeling strong and confident? I guarantee it will change how you show up in every other area of your life. It will change your posture. It will change your damn life, really.
And I think like that is really important too when you come back to training, because for me, and we'll talk about this more when we do your podcast about this balance, but when I go to the gym and I have my training session, it's my time. And I had to work really hard to actually get that focus because of some stuff in my childhood and stuff. We'll talk about that on your podcast. But when I go, I'm focused on it just for me. So I don't scroll on Instagram in between my sets. I'm not doing the Woolworth shop in between my sets. I'm not reading the school newsletters in between my set. But there's also a time constraint. It's like the workout is this long and it finishes at that time. So for that time, I'm going to focus on myself. And I think, women are so bad at doing this because we're like, we can multitask and everyone else has to come first. But the truth is, if you set that constraint on yourselves, like you wouldn't go to your work and go, hang on, to your boss, I've just got to do the Woolworth shop and read my school newsletter because I've missed something in the middle of my work hour. You would never do that, right? So why do we do that at home? And this is what I say to my stay-at-home mums as well. Like you need to schedule your time. You don't just, and you have to say to your family, I do the washing on Wednesday. So if you want anything washed, make sure it's in the laundry by Wednesday morning. It's not there. Sorry, mate. Like, you'll just have to wear a dirty ballet outfit to ballet. Like, sorry. Like just become more of a person who's dictated more by time. And I think like some people freak out about that, but I think it really helps. Like I put time limits on myself. Like I know I'm a procrastinator, so I put a time limit on. I will literally, if I don't want to do something, I'll literally put a timer on. Like you have to do it by the end of this time and stop saying that you don't have time and just focus on one thing. Even if it's something as dumb, like I hate washing, like you do not understand. I hate folding laundry. So I set a timer or I'll go, right, I'm going to listen to this podcast episode and I'm going to fold all the laundry and I'm not going to do anything else. Whatever it is, it sounds really stupid, but I think one of the reasons why we don't have time is because we're just trying to do too many things all at the same time rather than just focusing on one thing at the one time. Yes, there's like 45 million WhatsApp messages on my phone about school shit, but I literally will look at them at 2:30 before I go to put that, and I will not look at them otherwise. Like it's just, it's such a distraction. And that's the same with training. It's the same with food prep. Sunday night, 5:00, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put in my food for the week into Chronometer. And then I don't look at it except when I look at what I'm supposed to be eating. That's how much time I spent in my food diary. Half an hour on a Sunday and then 2 minutes before every meal looking at what I'm supposed to be eating. Right? When you start constraining it to putting limitations on it to rather than like, oh, what am I going to eat today? I'm just going to make that all my macros fit in. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, I've run out of that. Okay. You spend like an hour every day in Chronometer trying to work out what to do. Like you've got to put constraints on yourself. And then the reward for those constraints is like on Sunday, I don't do anything. I don't do any washing, cleaning, housework, nothing. Zero. And everybody knows I don't. And, and that's the gift I give to myself. Like I'm totally present with my family. It's family day. I'm not picking up after I'm not cleaning everyone. I'm hanging out with you.
I think there's a couple of pieces in that. One is that you've got to decide. So you've got to make the decision. And once you make the decision, you've just got to keep the promise. Yeah, it's like I have decided that I wanted to get up earlier, right, to do some deeper work earlier in the morning because it just takes a little while for me to get started just with like walking hand. Then I normally like to train in the morning and then it's just like later and then I normally have calls and it's just like, well, I actually don't really do anything in the evening, especially wintertime here. It gets dark at like 4:30 p.m. Yeah, and so 4 p.m. And so like, what do we really do in the evening? Like I read before I go to sleep, but there's like sometimes this gap of time where it's just like, yeah, Carson and I will connect or maybe we watch something. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to close the gap. I'm going to go to bed earlier and go to sleep and I'm just going to get up. And so I did that this morning and it's like, once I decide something, I just do it. And then it's about keeping my promise to myself and putting those constraints on myself to just do it then every damn day. Now, I'm not after like perfection or like, if I had a crappy sleep, sometimes I might sleep a bit longer, but it's like I just decide to do the thing, you get clear on it, and then you have to keep that promise to yourself. And use like things like there's lots of tools, now for like putting constraints and using timers and you can do all that stuff. But the main thing that's missing is once you decide, you've decided. And so then just keep the damn promise to yourself.
Yeah.
Breaking promises. And imagine if you kept doing that to your children. You kept promising your children all of this stuff and it just never followed through. Yeah, like that. That's really damaging.
That's so bad. You would never do that. You would just be like, and you'd feel awful. You'd be like, oh my God, I let my child down. I have to make it up to them. I have to spend more time with them. I have to do this. Like, yeah, you just wouldn't do that. And then when you start realizing that, you're like, I got to stop doing that to myself. Why am I doing that to myself?
And again, it's not after perfect. Yeah. We're just like, we just want to try. We want to have the intention that we had the vision or the goal. We wanted to do this thing. we made the promise to ourselves to do the thing. We've had the conversations with the family. We've like done the schedule, like we've organized everything. It's the promise piece that we just look down on. Yeah. And so can you keep the promise to yourself? Like, don't break the promise. Like, don't try and keep it the best that you can. And once you do that over and over again, it just like, it starts to feel easier to like prioritize yourself and keep the promise to yourself.
Yeah. And it's about having communication as well. I always say this to all of my clients. Your husband is not a mind reader. You need to say, I need to go to the gym every day. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but I need to go to the gym every day. That's the start of a conversation, you know? And then remember that it's a partnership and it's give and take. Like my husband went to the gym this morning. That's why I've had Shanti come in. I've had the cat come in, but I'm still podcasting. I said I was going to podcast. Like you just, sometimes you just have to, it's not perfect. You know, live with those constraints. And I think I feel like COVID was almost a permission for everything to not be perfect anymore. I think it was like an invitation, especially in terms of like working and, you know, having my kid and my animals coming in and out and all this sort of stuff. Like I think from since then, I'm just like, oh, I think everyone knows that I have a kid and I have a life and I have to, you know, like I'm not letting it interrupt everything. But it's made me just go, well, you know, I'm a mum. I got stuff I got to do. And, you know, sometimes I turn up to sessions without my makeup on or whatever it is that, you know, it doesn't have to be so perfect all the time. Sometimes I turn up to the gym and I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't bring my shoes. So I train with bare feet, or, you know, I didn't bring my water bottle. So I'll go and drink tap water for one session. It won't kill you. Like, you know, it's all of those things. But I think, you know, with training and sessions, like the biggest thing is that it's hard. Like that's the whole point of it. And even if you're like Amy and I and you love training and you're fascinated with training, we don't love the session every day. And we still have to coach ourselves through the session, and we still have to talk to ourselves and pump ourselves up. And maybe it's just worth, I think it's definitely worth getting some coaching and just, you know, having someone walk you through that, the script, give you the script, you know. For even Sean came home yesterday and he said to me, I've just got the highest, he hates it when I train him. He hates it. But we were at the gym together and I try not to train him, but he was really doing some of this bench press. And I'm like, I really want to help you because it's going to make it better. And he's like, okay. And he was really reluctant. He got really snappy at me. He's like, I can't do it like that because this is what happens when you train your partner. But he came home from the gym yesterday. He said, I just got the heaviest bench press I've ever pressed because of the technique that you told me. And it's really hard, right? Because the advice I would give him would be totally different to the advice I'd give someone else, because I can see how he's trying to work something out in his brain and then give him the language that clicks for him. So he said, I've just been doing that, saying that, repeating that to myself over and over again every time I do a bench press. And now I got to X weight and he's super happy. And so it doesn't even need to always be like a constant one-on-one trainer. It can just be like me with my deadlift. It's like I'm struggling with it. I'm going to go get coaching on my lift, and then all of a sudden I'm lifting like 30 kilos heavier. It can just be, if you work with a really good coach, it can actually be for a really short amount of time. And so it's like worth paying the money. I mean, you've got your event coming up where you guys are going to be helping people lift and all that sort of stuff. Investing in something like that just to get something to focus on for the next few months, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to start doing events. Like, I love events. Like, I come from a performing arts background, and then I was in a gym coaching, like, you know, classes and workshops and stuff for over a decade. And then, you know, the last 4 years or so, when the rhythm of the world was a little bit different, and I wasn't allowed to do that. But I had a goal this year to bring live events back, and I want to use them for women to be able to come and just like and learn, but they don't have to do something ongoing. Yeah, like working with a coach, like ongoing, ongoing, ongoing. You could come to something and you could just get some advice or some coaching on your technique to make it better. And like that one day or that 2 days or that one session with a coach could change how you're doing that movement. It could allow you to put 30 kilos on the movement or make it way easier, or it's just, and so I think being back in a room is really important with people because we just lost that over the last few years. And it's just so different when you're actually in a room with other people and other women and the energy and just like what you can pick up in, it's like the intangibles. Yeah. Even in a session with a coach, it's like, yes, we get the tangible stuff, which is like the coaching and the technical, but there's intangible stuff that comes with like conversations and off the cuff things and just like a different way to think about it. Or maybe you see them do something and I feel like we're missing that. And so I would, recommend women like getting in a room with a coach, even if it's a one-off session or a few sessions to work on a particular movement or a few movements, or if it's like going to like a live workshop session. You know, when Libby and I were creating it, one thing we were talking about was like, I don't think a lot of women really understand maybe what we're going to do here, because a lot of women probably have never gifted themselves that to go to like a full day workshop session where you would train. And like that seems so common to like me or you or Libby that have been in the space for so long. But for a lot of women, I just don't even think that they've ever thought about doing that for their training. And they probably don't understand the impact it could have on their motivation, their mindset, and some of their movements in their training, which is why Libby and I wanted to create it, because we know the magic that happens like when you're in a room and when you get like that coaching, that one-on-one kind of technical hands-on coaching. You know, it can save you so much time and so much energy, and looping it all the way back around to the start of our conversation. It can really help you overcome a lot of those fears that you have in the gym.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that if you can invest in yourself, like something like that once a year or every 6 months, or, you know, and I'm really sad to say, but the personal training industry is just I don't know, it's just getting worse and worse. Like I feel bad saying this, but there's actually not one single personal trainer that I would train with at the gym that I go to. And I know my standard is pretty high, but I wouldn't even refer any clients to those people because I don't see any of those trainers giving people the foundational principles, the technique, building up lifts. You know, I don't see them correcting people. And if I was going to spend the money, and I have spent the money on trainers, then I want like the technical, I want an education. And that's okay, right? There's a lot of people who literally want someone just to stand there and wait for them to show up. So they will show up to do their workout. That's fine, but you're just going to have a limitation on that. And, you know, I think it does a lot of people a disservice because they're like, well, I had a personal trainer for a year and nothing happened.
The amount of times I've heard.
Well, I know.
Women told me to do a hand plank this way. And I'm like, it's a fucking hand plank. What do you mean? That one properly.
I know the amount of people that come to train with me that have had a trainer for, and they can't squat, they can't deadlift. I'm like, what the hell has this trainer been doing? And unfortunately, because I used to do education for trainers, and even exercise physiologists and sports scientists would come and they don't know how to squat or deadlift. And so it's really hard as a consumer. I was like, what the hell did you do at university for 4 years? You can't lift anything. And I'm not saying that to be really mean, but I'm just like, okay, well, that's great. I know you read all the textbooks and all the science, but you don't know how to take a client from not being able to lift anything to be able to lift something. So, you know, it's really hard out there as a consumer because there's no standard. There's no body making sure that anyone's doing anything properly, or, you know, it's really hard. But I think it's worth it. You know, obviously, I highly recommend Amy, and I send clients to Amy. There's so many people in this space that you can reach out to and say, who would you recommend? And really go for something like learning how to lift properly. You know, like that's what you want. And you could spend like, you know, you could say, I'm going to invest in a year of personal training, or I'm going to invest in, you know, put that money aside and go, I'm making an investment, right? To learn how to do something properly. And everyone's different, right? Like some people like the one-on-one hand holding the whole time. Some like being in a group, some like doing a chunk of something and then going away and digesting it and working on it for 3 months and then coming back. But just make it an investment, you know, or really start following people online who are talking about the technique and just going into your session and trying to implement that technique, right? And just go, well, I don't do that. I can't get my whole foot on the ground when I squat. Like I don't use my whole foot. So I'm just going to go. I saw an influencer talking about that. I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to focus on that and all of my leg lifts using my whole foot. And you could just do that, right? And just change the game for yourself.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in that, Leila, that I'll add. So our eye can see beauty. Our eye can see beautiful things. It's actually it's quite clever. Yeah, we can see beautiful sunrises, beautiful sunsets, beautiful bodies, beautiful, 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 beautiful. And so what happens though is that we're not as confident in seeing the beauty in the movement of like how someone moves. But I still believe we can see it. Like if you watch people move online, in the gym, I just would give you a little project for those listening. Just watch and just see. See if you can see good movement. So see if you can see like full range hack squats, slow and controlled. Like just watch people move. And if you're looking for a coach, it's a show, don't tell world, I believe. Yeah. So they should be showing themselves moving and training. Watch them. How do they move? Now, I know that maybe your eye is not as well trained as like mine or Leila's, but like I believe your eye can see it. Yeah, I believe your eye can kind of see, well, that looks a bit like ugly or like a bit wrong compared to, oh, wow, she looks really like strong. She looks powerful. Well, that looks really beautiful. So a lot of women, when they come to work with me, it's because of the show, don't tell. I just show how I move, and their eye can see it. Their eye can see that looks beautiful. Like, how does she do that? It looks easy. It looks effortless. It looks pretty. It looks graceful. And so this would be the first thing. If you're looking for someone to teach you, how do they move? If you can't see them moving, if you don't see any of their training, red flag. Red flag, yeah? You want to see them train. You want to see how they move. The second thing is that if they work with people, they should be showing the people that they work with. Again, if they're not showing their students and their clients, to me, that's another red flag, because you're like, well, you're not showing the process, how you can take someone who's exactly like you feel, do you know what I mean? With like, maybe you feel like you have no ankle mobility or you have back pain and you like can't squat. And then you're like trying to decide if you're going to work with someone and they're saying that they can train you and help you with these things, but you're just like, there's just like not trust there because you haven't seen the proof that they can do that. And so if you got to show, I believe as a coach, you got to show that you can actually take someone through the process from like not being able to squat to being able to squat a lot of weight. And that was like, that kind of philosophy came from like Ido Portal in the movement world, which was like, show your students. Yeah. Don't tell me what you can do. Show the byproduct of your process and your practice and show me what your students can do. Because the people that are sitting, the women that are listening to this, that maybe are thinking about getting someone to help them, we need more trust. Yeah, it's a big step. It's a big investment financially, and we're just like not sure. And so how do they train? How do they move? Do you like it? Do you like what you see? Is it a style of training that you want to learn? And then are they showing their students? Like, are they actually showing you the people that they're working with? And if they are, and they're showing their process and they're showing that they can do the thing, well, that's going to help you. It's going to help you decide. It's the unknown, again, is why we don't make the decision. Because you're like, I'm imagining with your business stuff, yeah, you would have, there would have been some type of like success story test, like saying you saw the process and maybe the results that like other people had gotten, and when they built their course out, and there's got to be a piece to that. You might resonate with like the person and like her values and her belief system and, you know, her world, but for us to kind of say yes, to commit to someone, we have to kind of see that it works, the process. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And, you know, like that's a big thing for me, the authenticity. It took me a long time to find a coach and building courses that I wanted to work with, because, yeah, you want to see someone who has built what they're telling you they're going to teach you to build. But also in the values, you know, I chose someone that wasn't going to do this whole scale of business and sell it and, you know, buy Gucci bags and, you know, all this sort of stuff. Like, that just wasn't for me. And that doesn't mean that that's not for you if you're thinking about building a course. Or no, for me, it was like I wanted someone who was actually going to help me get time back in my life so I could spend time with my family. And I see her, and that's what her values are. So, you know, you want to work with someone, who shares the values that you're wanting to get to, or, you know, incorporate into your life. That's a huge part for sure. You know, so if you want to get good at movement, you got to coach who loves the beauty of the movement. It just isn't always about the weight loss and all the other things, you know, which is a byproduct. And maybe that means you need to, you know, do nutrition with someone else. Like, so refreshing the other day, I had a personal trainer say, I actually don't know how to do that. And I said to them, that is so refreshing. He said, I don't know how to do, like, the only nutrition I know is how to do is to cut calories. So I've got this client and she actually needs to eat more, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, it's so refreshing. To say, I don't know, I'm going to outsource, you know?
Yeah, it takes a hit to, like, you know, the ego won't like it, especially if you're like a professional in this space. And like you just said, the industry, there's just so many shit trainers out there. It's just like there's so many shit practitioners. Yeah. Like practitioners that, like, you know, I'm talking physios and stuff that like don't even think properly. And you're like, you're only good at like the manual therapy part, but that's only one part of helping someone rehab through an injury. Like, the prereq should be like, you have 5 years or a decade's worth of training experience. If you're going to be in this space, you should damn well have spent like hundreds or thousands of hours of training. Like the experience of it, especially when it comes to the human body and the training side of things, that you just can't teach it from a textbook and having no experience. And you can see it. You can just see the way that people train and coach people and practitioners, the type of exercises that they give people. It's like, well, you're just doing that because you're being told that. Again, it's not their problem. It's obviously like how we're teaching them and training them. But it's just like, you've got to train. You've got to put the time in. And so I love that PT said that, because like, if he hasn't put the time in to like learn the nutrition side of things, not even just with himself, but like with hundreds of clients, he doesn't have the expertise there to do that. And so we've got to refer out to people where it's like, you know what? I haven't put the reps in here. I don't have the skill set, the time, the experience to be advising you on this. Yeah. We need to put in like years or a decade.
And it's totally okay to do that too. You know, like, you can't do everything. Like, I don't train people anymore. And yes, and to be honest, like, my training focus, like what I'm really good at, is the rehab space. And so the muscle building space is not my space. The improving for sports is not my space. Like, that, I refer out to all of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, You have to focus on what you're good at. And so at the end of clients working with me, once their thyroid's restored and their energy's restored and they're like, I really want to train, I always refer them out. And sometimes I'll refer them out for fat loss phases as well. So it's like I have a body composition goal and a fat loss phase, and a fat loss goal. It's like, okay, well, work with Libby, work with Craig, like work with you if they're like wanting to like really make that beautiful movement and stuff. Like it's not my jam and I don't have time to do everything. Like we have to also, I think, like finding a coach that has that and goes, no, this is my focus and this is what I'm really good at and this is what I'm going to give you the best of myself for. And then I'm going to refer you out, and not be funny about, like, I've got a client at the moment, I'm trying to get her to come on the podcast. She's been training with Craig. She is phenomenal. And I'm like, I'm so glad I referred you and I found the right person for you. And Craig's grateful because he's like, oh my God, she's so good at the food part. She's so like, I taught her, all of that stuff. She's on thyroid medication. She can manage all that herself because where she's come from me. And he's just like she's just worked with him and got this cranking body. And, she's 60. But it's like going, I was there. I was the coach that was there for you for that piece of the puzzle. And that's my job. And now I'm going to pass you on to the next coach or point you in the direction of where you need to go next. She was just scared of lifting heavy. She just needed someone to push her to lift heavy enough. And Craig was the right person for her to do that.
Yeah, and isn't it cool? She invested. So she invested to learn how to feed herself. Then she invested in Craig to learn how to train. And she's not going to have to work with you for the rest of her life. She's not
going to have to work with Craig either.
Would have to work with Craig for the rest of her life. And this is the thing. Yeah. It's where did we get this idea that we're just going to like battle it through for years or decades, try to do these things when what if it took a year instead of 5?
Yeah.
It took you a year to learn how to feed yourself instead of 5. What if it took you a year or 2 to learn how to train yourself instead of just never knowing, or taking you decades? Like, why do we have such a hard time investing in ourselves, learning the 2 most fundamental things, I believe, to live a life on our own terms and to get where we want to be and be in a body where we want to be? Like, why are we not doing it? Yeah, why is not every woman doing it? This is the biggest question that I have on my side of like, do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Really? Do it, because it will just like save you so much time and so much energy and so much frustration. It's like you're willing to buy the bag or buy the car or like buy all of this stuff. And I'm not against stuff. I love things. I love fashion. I love beautiful things.
Oh, totally.
Like, why are you not willing to, like, people have such a barrier against how much it costs to work with like a practitioner like you and it's just like, then this is for health. These are like 2 essential skills. Like, why would you not want to pay that? Why some people like, and this is why I love there's so many of us out there that are good, that have different pricing systems and tiers and like, but financially we can always find a way. Yeah, like we can.
Yeah.
It's just like with time, a little bit of focus, a little bit of like reorganizing, but like we can find a way. If it's important enough to us and it's urgent enough, we'll find a way to do it. Yeah, I think that's what I'll end on.
And 100%, like just make the investment, and when you make an investment with someone who is like teaching foundational things, they're happy for you to leave at the end of your term. Like I'm so happy when I look at my clients' stuff, like I'll go through a session and I'll look at their log and I'll look at everything they do and I go, they literally take over the session and tell me what they've been doing and what they think they should do next. And I'm like, my job here is done. Like my job is really to teach you how to take this data, read it and make the best decision for yourself going forward. Like that's it. you don't need me anymore. It's such a nice feeling. You're like, wow, you're in charge of your own health now.
Yeah, it's the same. And where I'm landing with, I'm warrior school. A lot of the warriors have been with me for years now. And I'm at this point of like I want to create a graduation program, or like another part to the school where they can still do the training with me, but they don't need me to lead them as much as they had at the start. I love that. That's my main mission, is I want to teach you how to train properly so you can feel like you and me at the gym, of like, we know what we're doing. It doesn't mean we won't ever work with a coach, because like I'm working with a sprint coach. I want to learn how to sprint. I love it. I would work with a coach in the future. But like, you know how to lead yourselves. And that is power. That right there. That is the feeling of just like knowing how to feed yourself, lead yourself, train yourself is just pure power. It's freedom.
100%.
We all want to feel free, and we don't. We feel trapped, and that gives you freedom.
Yeah, and when in doubt, I always say this to myself, and I say this to my daughter, I don't like this, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I think like give yourself permission to go to, I don't like it. Like if you're at the gym and you're like, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm the only woman in the weights room, but I'm going to do it anyway. Every woman in here is skinnier than me. Oh, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Like I started making that my mantra. Like I'm just going to do it anyway.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Thanks so much, Amy. You've given such good advice. I hope like everyone can just ride back to that bit where Amy gave out that list. It was so good. Like you literally write that down, put that in your phone when you go into the gym next and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone's looking at me. Am I doing it right? I'm worried I'm going to get injured. You've got your little cues now that Amy's just given you that you can look at in your session. And Amy, I watch your clients in your little videos where you do little snapshots of them. They all move so beautifully. So anyone listening, I highly encourage you to get in touch with Amy if you want to move beautifully and learn how to lift well. I know she said in person is really good, but I also think that with someone like Amy, who's had that amount of experience, you can work with her online. And I have had a lot of clients come from her or go to her, and like it's beautiful what she's doing. So Amy, how can people get in contact with you?
A couple of different ways. So on the gram, it would be my full name, which is Amy, A-M-Y, Kate, K-A-T-E, Bowe, B-O-W-E. Then I have a podcast as well, which you've been on and you'll be on again soon, which is the Warrior podcast. And that's really where I share a lot of what we've spoken about today.
Yeah.
Just to try and help you piece together your training plan. So a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of, training, nutrition stuff. And then the school is Warrior School, which is, you can just find it at warriorschool.co. But that's closed for now because I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes work around what I'm going to do with her in the future for next year. But yeah, on the gram, on the podcast is a great place to start.
So thanks for coming, Amy.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. I love talking with you.
No, we could talk forever.
Ever and ever and ever. That's why every now and then we have to spend days together. So we can just
spend it. I know. I'm so looking forward to seeing you soon.
Very soon. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I'm Leila Lutz, and you've been listening to The Body Never Lies. If you haven't yet, please go to your favourite podcast app and subscribe, rate and review this podcast. All the resources and references from this episode are waiting for you on my website, leilalutz.com. Just click on podcast and look for this episode. Now join me next week for another episode of The Body Never Lies. Thank you so much for listening.
Free.